welcome to Coffee Talk Tuesday. Today, I'm not drinking wine. I'm actually doing a juice cleanse, so I'm drinking juice. Look, I'm so proud of you, Trip.
Yes, I had a urine sample cup I was going to use, and I thought about it for a couple seconds and decided not to.
Well, thanks. I mean, you used it last time, so I mean, the joke would have gotten old if you used it again.
Well, you're assuming we have the same viewers each week. We could have many new viewers who.
Good point. Good point. Well,
so I'm just always thinking.
Okay, I appreciate that. You keep thinking.
Okay.
Well, we are here
or
today.
Start thinking, as someone once said
Start thinking, yes. So my name is Chalese, and I am the host of Coffee Talk Tuesday, and I'm here with Trip, my co-host. Wave, Trip. Hi.
Well, they've been listening. Yeah, I think they know it's me.
And our guest today is Sean Heaps. Hi, Sean.
Hi.
So we're super excited to have Sean on today. He actually told me that he's a super fan of Coffee Talk Tuesday. So now super fan come and be a guest. Like, that's a perfect story.
Both worlds, yeah.
Right, exactly.
So Sean, how come you're a super fan of the show? Is it Chalese's beauty, her wit, her intelligence? What is it?
Well, you said it all and many more. No, honestly, it would have to be what you all believe in doing, and it's helping those helping those who have been through struggle and grief, and allowing them to share their stories to help other people. Because when A helps B, A gets better. So,
well put. Well put.
Well, that's the topic today. We're actually, Sean is being very vulnerable with us today, and I really appreciate him coming on. But we're going to be talking about his story of overcoming addiction. So it's something that I think it's in our lives every day anyway. And whether it's addictions to, food or drugs or alcohol or whatever, like we all struggle with something. So when we're able to hear somebody else's story, I think it helps us. It helps give us hope. And so, Sean, why don't you tell us your story?
well, I mean, I don't know how much time I have, or if you want me to read what I've sent you.
Don't read it. Just tell. So I guess we'll go for what was it that you were overcoming? What was your addiction? How did you get involved even in that, like a little bit of that?
Absolutely.
How did you?
So it's very easy to happen. I never thought it would happen to me, being, married and had a new house in Cottonwood Heights. I had everything I thought I had ever dreamt of wanting. But during that marriage, it had slid into taking a pick-me-up pill, which was, provided through my mother-in-law at the time, because she had MS. And so she would provide us with these Oxycontins, and it started as a pick-me-up. And then, of course, soon after, when everything started going downhill with my marriage and losing the house and then losing my job, it just starts adding up. And then quickly after not being together in my marriage, and then my mother-in-law passing away from her MS, I didn't have my supply anymore. And at that point in my life, I realized I'm sick and I have a problem, and I need to keep feeding this problem. Okay. And so not soon after did I realize I had a problem, and I had a new lover and a new relationship. And this relationship meant everything to me, to where I would do anything to protect this relationship, being my substance. My life that used to reflect of getting up and going to work and having a good attitude and going to bed, it changed into getting up, being sick, finding my fix, getting high, and then doing whatever I could to ensure I always had that high and that fix throughout the day. So it wasn't like so much the drug being the problem. What became the problem was the behaviors.
And Sean, the one question I had, I'm lucky enough to work a little bit in recovery by hosting a show called Odyssey House Journals. And what we're finding is a lot of people take that path from oxys into heroin. How many milligrams, if you could include how many pills a day, so it gives our listeners some framework?
Yeah, so when I was doing the Oxycontins, it was it started with 30 milligrams, and then it went to 2 pills a day, which was 60 milligrams. And then when it reverted to a cheaper outlet, which was heroin, I was doing a 0.5 gram to 1 gram a day, which is about $80 a day in heroin.
Wow, because now oxys, when I had my knee operation, they only give you 0.5. They give you such a small milligram of oxys. I mean, it's they're really working on doing that, and that would have been beneficial to you because it would have.
Absolutely.
So you were
Absolutely.
30 milligram. You were doing each pill you took was 6 times what I would take for pain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and of course this was back in 2010, 11, 12, and then 2013 is when I converted over to heroin, as I lost kind of my marriage and everything, and I lost my hookup for the pills, and so I'm sure things have changed a lot now with how they produce those pills. But I mean, the underlining issue was it wasn't necessarily the drugs, it was the behavior that came with the drugs, because I turned into somebody, a monster that would do anything to ensure I had my drug, which would it would mean lying and cheating and being a thief and fraud. I began getting jobs and looking for jobs that I knew I would be good at, cheating them and frauding through them to supply my habit. So I bounced from job to job, and then I started running from the law because those jobs started catching on. And soon after, you know, you're pretending to be all these things that you're really not. Like when we say we see a homeless person on the street or a drug addict, we're like, what a loser. No, they're not a loser. They're just acting like a loser because they've lost who they really are. And that's what I was doing. I was acting like a loser. I was acting like a drug addict and all the other many things that society sees us as. And I had to learn a different way of life because I got so lost that I had nothing else left to hold on to. You know, my family didn't want to talk to me, my friends. I lost the respect and the love from anyone and anyone. And just by looking at me, you wouldn't want to trust me because obviously my addiction was wearing on me. And so I needed to do something different. And if what got me into this this new person this monster that I had become, if what got me there was pretending to be something that I wasn't, why couldn't I pretend to be something that I wasn't again, but in a good way, and make it become who I am? And that's exactly what I did.
So how did you do that? How did you get to that point where you were like, enough is enough? Because I mean, I've been in not that same world, but I've been in a world where it's very hard to come out of. It's very hard to see. And even when you get to that point where you even said, like, I know it's a problem. I know that I need to do something about it, but you're not ready. So there has to be something that like hits you or happens that you're like, oh my gosh, like I have to change. What was that for you?
Yeah, and that's a good question because that's different for everyone. Rock bottom is different for each individual. You know, there was many times that I thought I was ready, but then something would happen and change my course. But for me, it was being at such a dark place in myself, whereas I had no control of what I was doing. But for what control I did have, I missed, and this is what I thought at the time, I missed the person that I used to be and who I knew I could be. But you know, as I made a leap of faith and because I'd ran from Salt Lake to LA because I was wanted and I had warrants here. And after 2 years in LA and in North Hollywood, I woke up one morning and I just couldn't do it anymore. And I needed something different. But to need something different, you have to do something different. And whether we want to or whether we like it, it's not, you know, it doesn't matter. But I mean, at first you don't like it, but at the end you become to love it. But anywho, I bought a Greyhound ticket and I walked into the motel room and told my partner, I'm leaving and I'm getting on a bus and I'm going alone. And I just remember him saying that no one's ever going to love you the way that I do, and not even your family will. And I said, all I need to do is love myself right now. And it was the best decision I ever made, was choosing to love myself. And that's really hard to give that advice to somebody, because you're only ready when that person's ready, and that's hard to tell. But all you can do is be there for support and to help encourage those for when they, do make that choice to be ready, that they know they have support there to help them through that.
So we're going to take a break, and we will be back with more of Sean's story after this. Okay, well, welcome back to Coffee Talk Tuesday. I am here with my guest, Sean Heaps, and he is telling us his story of his recovery from being a heroin addict. So we really appreciate him being vulnerable and opening up and sharing his story. So we want to go in. A couple of questions that I have are, what are some of the challenges that you faced in coming back here to Salt Lake?
Some of the challenges were failure. I was afraid of failing again, because how many times have I said I'm going to do this and not do it? And, and I'm sure at that point, my family was like, okay, whatever, you say you're going to do something, whatever, because they stopped believing in me. And so that was a challenge as well, not knowing that my family wasn't there to believe in me. But I kind of revert back on that, because, there was one person that didn't really ever give up, and that was my mom, even though she had to show tough love. And, sorry.
It's okay.
Even though she had to shut the door on her son and not allow me to be a part of a healthy environment, because I wouldn't be bringing healthy to that environment. I can only imagine what that's like for a mother to have to do. But I was angry at first that I felt like I had no one. But now I'm super grateful, because I understand what she did, why she did what she did. And it was to stop enabling. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of us a lot of us as human beings, when we care about somebody, will do anything and everything, no matter what the circumstances are. But in all reality, we're just making the situation worse for them. And that's all people were doing for me. We're making it worse. I used to be somebody that was independent and depended on myself. And I turned into somebody that was codependent, and codepending on my drug, heroin, codepending on whatever partners I would be with at the time to take care of me so I can mooch off of them. I became so codependent because they weren't really helping. Yeah. And so for my mom to make that decision and shut the door and cut off all ties, it made it to where, I came back to Salt Lake with $200 in my pocket, knowing that that wasn't going to last me long in a motel room, and also with my addiction. In fact, it only lasted me a day and a half. And then I was back on the streets in Salt Lake. But I knew I had a feeling of needing to do something different. And I came here for a reason. I really didn't know what that was. And after sleeping under a frozen blanket next to Hart's gas station and getting a tap on the shoulder from somebody asking if I was okay, and I didn't really know how to answer that. And that's exactly what I told her. I don't know. And she told me not to go anywhere. And after feeding me food, and she was going to give me $60, and I was going to, well, that would be great, because I'm going to go get high again and not be sick. But before I could even answer, she said, actually, I'm just going to get a motel room for you, somewhere where you can sleep warm and safe and think clearly again. And that I don't even know her name. And I wish I did, because she helped save my life that day. Because that next morning, after waking up and sleeping for 24 hours in a warm bed and having food in my tummy, I was able to think clearly. And I was able to understand what I really wanted. And I knew I was the only one that was in control of doing that. And at that point, I knew I needed to walk myself into the Salt Lake County jail and turn myself in and face my consequences for the destructive lifestyle that I had led for 7 years. It was time to take responsibility. And that's what saved my life. Yeah.
Wow. So,
sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Don't ever be sorry. It's such a hard thing to talk about, and the fact that you're willing to talk about it, because and we've talked about this too, like it's going to help somebody somewhere, and knowing that it's possible to recover and to figure it out the hard way is really the only way to do it. There is no easy way to come out of addiction. There is no easy way to get back what you felt that you lost. And so the fact that you did that, so when you turned yourself in, what happened from there?
So I walked in and I just said, hi, I went into visiting and I'm not here to visit anyone. I'm actually here for someone can visit me in the future. And I just said, I'm here to turn myself in. And he kind of looked at me like weird. And he says, okay, what's your name? And I told him, and he came around and he placed my hands up onto the brick wall and he read me my rights and arrested me. And I sat back in holding until they could process me. And it was a busy time at the time. And so it took like a day and a half till I even got back into a cell. But at that point, I mean, I was scared, but at the same time, I had a sense of relief. I felt like all the weight and the fears that I had were lifted off. And at that point, I just knew everything was going to be okay. Of course, that is if I choose to make it okay by my choices, because that's what it all ends up to be, is choices that we make and behavior. And so, I had attended the Other Side Academy back in 2015, and I had walked into the old Armstrong Mansion on 1st South and 7th East thinking it was a hotel, and this was when I was living on the streets still, because I lived on the streets from 2013 till just the past 2 years. And I thought I was going to get a job and do this all over again. I can do this by myself. And I asked for a job application, and they just said, you know what this place is? And I'm like, no. And they said, well, it's the Other Side Academy. It's a re-educational facility for those with substance abuse and prison background. I'm like, well, not only am I looking for a job, I'm a heroin addict. And I stayed there for about 6 months. I got released because they're not a medical facility, and I was also suffering from bulimia. And that was something, another, controlling, it was almost like an addiction within itself. Mm-hmm. And it was more of, they couldn't be held reliable if something was to happen and if I died there. And so and this is where it comes back to speak.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Did you become bulimic during that time after you recovered, or the whole time?
That happened in my marriage as well, because I felt like I needed to fit an image to make my partner happy. And that may not have been the case that he was wanting, but that's how I felt.
Right.
And so I felt like I had to be his same size. And by doing that,
nobody can be his same size.
Right. Well, no, but it became habit, and those habits became an addiction. And when I wasn't using, and I would get clean, then that addiction would kick in. It was like addiction was the one last thing I could control. Right. And giving up something, it was like I had nothing. Yeah. And so it was hard for me to do that. But anywho, I left the Other Side Academy, but I never really let go of the Other Side Academy. It stuck within everything I would talk about and say and portray to live, even when I wasn't living it. And at that point, when I was at the Salt Lake County Jail, that's when I realized, like, I have the tools to do this. I learned and I fell in love with a program that I knew would help if I would have just stayed longer, because 30, 60, 90-day programs do not work. If you really want to change, you need long-term change. Yeah. And that's what the Other Side provided. And so I acted as one of the things that we learned there, you act as if. And I acted as if I was at the other side. I acted as if I was honest. And I acted as if, I was sober and had integrity. until one day I just woke up and I wasn't acting as if anymore. It was truly who I became and what they always talked about. And it's something I'm extremely passionate about. And, you know, I mean, in success, it's even more rewarding when you've seen defeat.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, being able to look at all of the things that you went through. Yeah, am I sorry I didn't stay at the other side and finish out my thing? Absolutely. But obviously it wasn't my time, because through that course, I went through many other obstacles and life challenges that I look at now as a strength, because it just made me stronger, and it gave me a little bit more added to my story to help share and possibly help save another life from what I encountered. So
just to make sure of the timeline, when you went into the Other Side Academy, when was that?
That was May 5th of 2015.
Okay. So then, and that was before you went to LA?
Yes.
Okay. So then, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. Yeah, that was before. So after 2 weeks of being out of the other side, in October, November, I relapsed again, and I started back onto the same lifestyle that I knew best, because I wasn't there long enough. But they held dearly to my heart, and it was like that one piece that was inside of me screaming for help. That was like the piece I was holding on to.
Yeah.
And so that's why I was so quick to implement the behaviors I had learned and see if it worked. And
that I think is one of the reasons why I do what I do as well, is that even if you know, when you're telling your story, or when I'm telling my story, when we're telling our stories, and even if we can impact one person, even if it's not for that moment, but maybe down the road, that, I mean, if they made that big of an impact on you for years later, for you to finally go, you know what, this is still coming up in my mind, and this is what's going to get me through, and it's you know, there, then I mean, that's amazing. Do you know if they're still in business?
oh yeah, of course.
Okay.
I follow them all the time. In fact, they just came and cleaned out my mother-in-law's mom's home, because she passed away over 2 years ago, and they've been getting the house cleaned and getting ready to sell. And they were going to throw away a bunch of this stuff. And I said, no, if you're going to throw away or donate to anyone, it's going to the other side.
Nice.
And they were
cool.
quick to come up and help clean it all out and pack it up and take it to be donated.
Cool.
But yeah, no, it's a monumental movement throughout Salt Lake, and they just opened their new office in Denver, and they have the Other Side Moving Company, which is the #1 moving company in Utah, the Thrift Boutique in Murray, and they just opened another one in Mill Creek, the Other Side Thrift. And all the money that they make through the vocational schools goes back into the home to help save another life. And
That's
so
awesome.
that's what taught me work ethic, and to get up and go to work and have a good day and a good attitude and go to bed and do it again.
Well, I love that, because we'll have the link for them. So if anyone that's listening is struggling or needs help or whatever, that's a great resource, and we'll make sure that we post that in our blog and in our.
And it's free.
And it's free.
It's a free program.
Awesome. That's amazing. I love that so much. And I love that you're sharing your story with us, and I'm so glad. So what happened after? How long were you in jail for? What got you to come out?
So after 2 years of being in jail, I went in front of the judge, and he, you know, commended me for turning myself in, and was going to release me and reinstate my probation for another 2 years. And I told him no, I didn't want that, because I knew after hours of being on the street, I was just going to be right back into that revolving door, and it wasn't going to help anything. And I was at a point where I wanted to save myself, and I would do anything, just like I would when I was in my addiction. I would do anything for my addiction. I was at a point I would do anything to get out of this addiction. And I told him I'll stay. And there was a program called CATS, which is also ran through Odyssey House. And it was a 3-month waiting period, and I'll wait as long as I need to wait. And so I was there for a total of 8.5 months, and I got out, and I was able to, I felt I was reinvented, and I was a 2.0 version of myself, and I felt great. And I wanted to just keep sharing it with everyone. It's an each one teach one. You know, you're only helping yourself by helping others, and that's what I want to continue doing. And I want to help share that message with everyone else to help continue doing. You know, since my release, And that was on June 21st. I've gotten my license back. I haven't had a license in 7 years. I was working 2 jobs and saved up some money to buy my own car and to get my license back, because that was $1,300 alone, and then got my own car. And now I met an amazing man who has been my fuel every day. We have an apartment together. I have a phenomenal job, that and it's rewarding within itself, with education at work with Microsoft. And this only happened because I made a choice, and that was the choice to ask for help and to get help. And so for those that are out there that are scared or afraid of who's going to judge them for falling again by trying to make a choice and they can't succeed, I'm not judging you. You can do it. Fall as many times as you can, because eventually it's going to be your time and you're going to be ready. Just don't give up, because that choice is going to get you somewhere, and it's going to get you something.
Well, Sean, I love seeing you again. It's been so many years since we've seen each other, and I had no idea that you were even on that path when we knew each other. And but it's been, I mean, for the viewers, I've known Sean since 2012, 2013. We really started becoming really good friends. And I want you to know that I'm going to go ahead and say her name, because it's Trish, that you were going to be on the show. And she wants you to know that she loves you and she's so proud of you. So
I love you, Trish.
But thank you so much for being so vulnerable. I'm sad that the stuff didn't work out with Trip, but
it's okay.
You did a great job, and thank you so much. And we will make sure to keep in touch. And whenever you have, I know you're writing a book, so when you get that all set up, we'll make sure we'll have you on the show again. So
thank you. I appreciate you all for having me and allowing me to help continue save another life. So thank you for everything.
Well, that's why we do what we do here. So all right. Well, thank you again, and thank you to my viewers. And if you need any help or anything at all, please go ahead, and we'll have the links to some resources below. And also, if you want to just reach out, and I'm also an advocate in helping people find help. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks.